China says its military has fully surrounded Taiwan for war games, with live fire drills now taking place. Taiwan responding by mobilising its troops to rehearse defence tactics. The war games come just days after Washington announced the largest ever weapons package for Taiwan, selling some $11 billion worth of weapons.
The drill focuses on subjects of Sea Air Combat Readiness Patrol, joint seizure of comprehensive superiority, blockade on key ports and areas, as well as all-dimensional deterrence outside the island chain. With vessels and aircraft approaching the Taiwan island in close proximity from different directions, troops of multiple services engage in joint assaults to test their operational capabilities. It is a stern warning against Taiwan independent separatist forces, and it is a legitimate and necessary action to safeguard China's sovereignty and national unity.
We call on the Chinese authorities to act irrationally and with self-restraint, to cease irresponsible provocative behaviour, and not to misjudge the situation and undermine regional peace. Our government will continue to closely cooperate with all parties in the region and safeguard peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific.
Joining me in the studio is our international affairs editor, Philip Turle. Philip, why are these Chinese military manoeuvres around Taiwan happening at this point?
Well, Annette, you don't really need to look very far to see where all this is coming from. I think there are two major reasons. The first one is this arms sale that the US has given to Taiwan. Remember that the US is bound by law to provide Taiwan with defense weapons. This is something that the former US President Joe Biden has always said, that the US will defend Taiwan militarily. And I think this has seriously irked the Chinese, who are now flexing their muscles. They say $11.1 billion worth of missiles, including long-range missiles, which basically could be used to be fired on China itself, is no-go as far as the Chinese authorities are concerned. That's the first point. And the second point is that there is a fly in the ointment as far as Taiwan is concerned, as far as China is concerned, and that is the Taiwanese president, whose name is Lai Ching-te. China has accused him on several occasions of pursuing an independence program. He's answered back by saying that Taiwan is already a sovereign nation and doesn't need to pursue independence. And that is something that the Chinese also find very hard to accept. So that is why they do these periodic exercises in the Taiwan Strait to just show they are present, to flex their muscles and to say to Taiwan, look, you don't want to make any effort to try to become independent, because if you do, this is going to end badly, and it'll end badly for you and not for the Chinese. That's why I think we've seen this operation, which is called Justice Mission 2025, taking place right now. Intimidation on the one side, flexing muscles on China's stance on the other.
But it does appear that President Trump is playing some sort of a double game, isn't he? I mean, with China, by attempting to sign these business deals with Beijing, but at the same time agreeing to sell over $11 billion worth of arms to Taiwan.
Yeah, and the interesting thing here, Annette, is that in the past, for example, Joe Biden, Trump's predecessor, made it pretty clear that if China were to attempt to take hold of Taiwan, then the US would intervene. President Trump hasn't really said that in very clear terms. He's been playing a very ambiguous game, which is something that President Trump does in many different situations right now. He wants to sign trade deals with China. This can seem a little bit bizarre, that he wants to sign trade deals with China, but at the same time he's sending this massive, great package of weapons to the Taiwanese, which is certain to upset the Chinese and maybe upset the US's ability to sign trade deals with China. I think what President Trump is trying to do is to say to the Chinese, look, this is a bargaining chip for me. If you don't do what I want, I'm going to keep sending these packages to the Taiwanese. So this is a way of bringing the Chinese on board, containing the Chinese by supporting what goes on in Taiwan. That is what President Trump is trying to do right now. What is unclear here is what would happen if, for example, the Chinese took no notice of this and they decided to launch an attack on Taiwan, to take Taiwan by force. Would the US intervene in that case, as Joe Biden said they would? Would Donald Trump also say that the US should go in and intervene to protect Taiwan? We don't know. That is very unclear. And one has to ask the question, if the Chinese launched an attack over the Strait of Taiwan, would the US intervene militarily to stop that from happening? That is something that President Trump has remained pretty unclear about up until now.